Before we begin, listen closely, because these next 10 seconds might disrupt the way you move through your entire life. Your peace is not stolen by chaos. Your peace is surrendered through exposure, and the moment you stop giving people front row seats to your private world, you take your power back. I want you to breathe for a moment and let that sink in, because for far too long, many of us have believed that being open, available, and endlessly accessible somehow makes us kind, lovable, or strong. But here's the raw truth: oversharing is often self-betrayal dressed as connection. And we don't notice the cost until we're emotionally drained, misunderstood, or quietly judged by people who were never meant to hold our tender stories. Guarding your peace through private living isn't about secrecy. It's about self-respect. It's the courageous act of saying, my inner world is sacred, and not everyone earns the right to enter. Because the moment you start living privately, you begin to hear your own voice again, the one buried under noise, opinions, assumptions, and expectations. You begin to realize that you don't owe explanations, you don't owe transparency, you don't owe access, you owe yourself alignment, calm, and clarity. Private living is not withdrawal, it's intentional living. It's saying, I choose peace over performance, I choose boundaries over burnout, I choose emotional safety over public approval. And when you make that shift, something extraordinary happens. You stop defending your life, and you start owning it. There's a moment in every person's life when they realize this truth: the more people know about you, the more they feel entitled to your life, entitled to your choices, entitled to your emotions, entitled to your mistakes, and entitlement breeds intrusion. But when you choose private living, you reclaim a sacred kind of power, a grounded, steady, unshakable power that comes from knowing you are no longer emotionally available to every wandering opinion or careless judgment. Privacy is not silence. Privacy is strategy. Privacy is emotional intelligence. Because here's what many people don't understand: not every listener is a safe witness. Some people listen to respond, some listen to compare, some listen to use your story as gossip fuel. And some listen to measure how much control they can have over you. But when you pull back, when you begin sharing intentionally instead of impulsively, you shift from being rateable to being respected. Private living teaches you to choose your audience, to choose who gets your truth, to choose who earns your soft, vulnerable spaces. And when people no longer have access to every fear, every dream, every wound, every plan, your peace stops depending on their reactions. You become harder to manipulate, harder to provoke, harder to drain. Your emotional world becomes yours again, because nothing is more powerful than a person who knows themselves deeply yet shares themselves selectively. Let me tell you something that many people discover only after they're exhausted, heartbroken, or betrayed. Overexposure is a slow leak in your emotional life. Every time you overshare, every time you reveal your plans too early, every time you unpack your deepest wounds to someone who hasn't earned the right to hear them, you drain a piece of your inner strength. We often confuse vulnerability with openness, but vulnerability without boundaries isn't bravery, it's emotional self-harm. Because the truth is, not everyone who smiles at you is rooting for you. Not everyone who listens cares. Not everyone who checks in does it to support you. Some people are simply collecting data, and once they have it, they use it against your confidence, against your growth, against your peace. When you live publicly, emotionally, mentally, or personally, you invite opinions that were never meant to shape you. You absorb criticism that was never yours to carry. You internalize judgments from people who don't even know your heart. And the worst part, you begin doubting yourself. You begin shrinking. You begin apologizing for being human. But when you stop letting everyone access your private world, the noise fades. Your energy stops leaking into the wrong conversations. You begin healing in silence, planning in silence, rising in silence, because your life is not a public forum. Your heart is not a community event. Your healing is not a group project. And the moment you stop overexposing yourself, you stop bleeding for people who never intended to help you heal. There comes a moment in adulthood when silence becomes more than a pause, it becomes protection, a shield, a boundary that quietly says, I am no longer handing out pieces of myself to people who don't know how to hold them. Selective silence is not coldness. It's not distance. And it's not a punishment. It is the deeply intentional act of choosing where your emotional energy goes and where it will never go again. Because the truth is, silence can reveal what words often hide. People show you who they are when you stop explaining yourself. They show you their intentions when you stop narrating your life. They show you their loyalty when they no longer have access to your thoughts. When you become more private, you start seeing who actually cares, because real supporters stay even when there's nothing to know. They stay without updates, without details, without constant emotional access. They stay because they value you, not your information. Selective silence also protects your future. It keeps your dreams away from envy. It keeps your progress away from comparison. It keeps your healing away from those who would rather see you suffer than rise. And when you embrace this kind of silence, you stop needing validation. You stop needing approval. You stop needing the world to understand you. You grow quietly. You transform quietly. You protect your peace quietly. Your silence isn't emptiness. It's strategy. It's strength. It's self-respect. Because not everyone deserves a front row seat to the chapters you're still writing. There is a very specific kind of peace that enters your life the moment you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. It feels like unclenching a fist you didn't know you'd been holding for years, because every explanation you give is an emotional expense. Every justification drains your spirit. Every attempt to make someone understand steals a little more of your freedom. When you live privately, you reclaim the right to move without announcing, to grow without broadcasting, to change without apologizing. You learn that your decisions don't require a public vote. Your healing doesn't need commentary. Your boundaries don't require approval. You no longer feel obligated to answer questions like, why didn't you tell me? Why are you doing that? What changed? The answer becomes simple, because it's my life and I'm allowed to protect it. Private living frees you from the burden of being predictable or explainable. It frees you from the suffocating pressure to keep everyone updated. It frees you from people who want access more than they want connection. And here's the beautiful part. When you stop explaining yourself, you start trusting yourself. You start listening to your intuition more than to opinions. You start honoring your needs more than others' expectations. You start living for yourself rather than performing for the world. This freedom isn't loud. It doesn't need attention. It simply gives you room to breathe, room to think, room to exist without the weight of other people's reactions. Because the most powerful choice you can make is to live your life without asking permission. One of the hardest lessons you will ever learn is this: not everyone who likes you deserves access to you. Not everyone who is curious about your life has earned the right to hear your truth. Not everyone who shows up is meant to stay. Access to you, your emotions, your plans, your fears, your dreams is a privilege. And a privilege should never be handed out casually. When you start living privately, you begin to see people clearly. You notice who asks about your life out of genuine care and who asks because they're gathering information. You notice who celebrates your growth and who grows uncomfortable when you rise. You notice who protects your name when you're not in the room and who uses your stories as conversation material. Private living sharpens your discernment. It teaches you to read intentions instead of words, to listen to consistency instead of promises, to trust actions instead of charm. And slowly, your circle becomes smaller, but more real. The people who remain are those who don't need constant updates to feel connected. They don't demand emotional access as proof of love. They don't pry gossip or assume. They simply hold space for you, quietly, respectfully, generously. And those are the people who deserve access, the ones who treat your privacy like something sacred, the ones who don't feel entitled to your inner world, The ones who love you without needing to know every detail of you. Because access isn't about presence, it's about integrity. There is a sacred kind of strength that grows in the dark when no one is watching, no one is judging, no one is waiting to see if you fail. This is the art of quiet growth, and it will transform the way you rise, because growth that happens privately is protected. It's not exposed to jealousy. It's not targeted by criticism. It's not interrupted by people who pretend to cheer while secretly hoping you fall. When you choose to grow quietly, you stop performing progress for others and start embodying it for yourself. You stop announcing your next step and simply take it. You stop revealing your plans and focus on building them. And something magical happens when you do this. Your growth becomes real, not reactive. It becomes steady, not shaken. It becomes yours, not shaped by outside opinions. Quiet growth feels like this: waking up one day and realizing you've healed more than you ever talked about. Discovering you've broken patterns that no one even knew you were fighting. Achieving goals you never announced, but fully embodied. Outgrowing situations that once consumed you. People start noticing without you saying a word. They see the strength in your eyes. They feel the calm in your presence. They recognize the shift in your energy, not because you broadcasted your transformation, but because you honored it. Quiet growth is not hiding. It's protecting the version of you that is still being shaped, still learning, still becoming. Because the strongest version of you is built in silence and revealed in time. There comes a day when you look around at your life and realize something profound. Peace didn't arrive because things got easier. Peace arrived because you stopped giving everyone access to your mind. When you start living privately, the world becomes calmer, not because it changed, but because you shifted. Your nervous system finally gets a break. Your heart stops running marathons for people who never ran for you. Your mind stops replaying conversations that didn't deserve your attention in the first place. Privacy is the quiet doorway to emotional freedom. Suddenly, you don't feel the need to announce your moves. You don't feel pressure to prove your worth. You don't feel obligated to decorate your life for public approval. And without that noise, your creativity returns, your confidence rises. Your intuition speaks louder than the world around you. Peace begins to feel less like a luxury and more like a home you've been trying to return to for years. You start noticing the beauty of your own company. You start appreciating the safety of your own silence. You start realizing that your inner world was always meant to be protected, not performed. Private living teaches you that peace is not found in other people's understanding. It's found in the boundaries you build, the access you restrict, the energy you preserve, and that's when you finally understand. Your peace was never stolen. It was scattered, given away in pieces. But now, through intentional privacy, you gather it back, quietly, slowly, powerfully. There is a moment, an unforgettable moment, when you finally realize you are allowed to protect your energy without apologizing for it. That moment is the birth of healthy boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, they're not rejection, they're not punishment. They are the purest form of self-respect you can offer yourself. But here's the truth many people avoid: you cannot live privately, peacefully, or powerfully if you're terrified of saying no. You cannot guard your mind, your heart, or your life if you constantly feel responsible for everyone else's comfort. Boundaries require courage. They require choosing discomfort now to avoid resentment later. They require understanding that peace is impossible without limits. And yes, people will react. Some will question you. Some will push back. Some will act confused or offended by the new version of you who no longer gives unlimited access. But their reaction is not your responsibility. Their entitlement is not your burden. Their disappointment is not your guilt to carry, because boundaries do something extraordinary. They filter your relationships. They reveal who values you and who values what you provide. They expose who respects your humanity and who only respects what they can take from you. And when you stop feeling guilty for protecting yourself, you start living from a place of emotional strength, not fear. You reclaim your time, your clarity, your mental space, your identity. Boundaries are the guardrails of private living. And once you set them, your peace becomes non-negotiable. Now, after everything, take a moment and breathe. Let this sink in. Living privately is not temporary. It is a lifelong act of courage, self-love, and protection. You have been conditioned to believe that visibility equals validation, that being available constantly equals worth, that sharing everything equals connection. But the deepest, truest connections and the strongest sense of self emerge when you live with intention, not exposure. Private living is the art of carefully choosing who enters your inner world. It is the discipline of silence when words are unnecessary. It is the power to guard your energy, protect your dreams, and nurture your soul without explanation. When you live privately, you live honestly, you live courageously, you live fiercely, you stop performing for applause, you stop living under the weight of other people's expectations. You stop surrendering pieces of your peace in search of approval that was never yours to give. And here's the ultimate truth piece: power, clarity, and freedom do not come from everyone knowing your story. They come from knowing yourself and allowing others only the access they have earned. So let this be your declaration. You will honor your boundaries, you will treasure your silence, you will grow quietly, rise confidently, and protect your inner world relentlessly. Because the life you build in private is the life we'll inhabit without regret. The strength you cultivate in silence will carry you when chaos surrounds you. And the peace you guard fiercely will be a legacy you live every single day, live privately. Protect your energy on your life, because your peace is priceless and it is yours to keep.